today we will be talking about mostly about the revenue, and tomorrow we will be mostly discussing about the expenses part. So, since revenue is divided into segmentation, as you would imagine, to understand the hotel's revenue in deeper details and to create the strategies for marketing and sales, we need to divide the hotels need to divide their revenues by looking at the individual segmentation where they are making the most of the money, where the revenue is coming from. So it is divided into two main segments. One is transient. It means the non-group expense, non-group revenue, which essentially is less than 10 rooms traveling at the same time. And then there is a group rooms revenue, which is more than 10 rooms at a single time, right? Then you have contract room revenue, which is, and these both are transient room revenue, means they are staying for a one night or two nights or even 14 nights, but they are coming and going. They don't really have a fixed contract to stay in the hotel. But if the guest has a contract for over a month, in the at the time of checking in, and then there are terms and conditions signed at that point of time, then that revenue, even it comes from retail or negotiate or wholesale, via it can come from anywhere, but it will go into the contract room revenue. So the contract room revenue and transient room revenue is distinguished because both are different type of businesses. And then you have others room revenue, which is mostly the early check-in, check-out, and then minus the allowances. So that's the room revenue. So do you guys understand why these revenue segmentations are segmented like this? Why we are covering transient separately and then the contract and other room revenue, and how this transient room revenue is divided into groups and individuals, and also that each segment is divided into retail, discount. We have another part which is, we call it sub segments. So for example, your COVID-19 business is let's say is coming via the government, or because it's a negotiated government, it's mandated by government, right? So you can put it under negotiated. Or let's say if it's coming from the it's an individual one and is coming because of coming via your websites, then you can put it under your retail business. So it can be a sub segment within the major segments. Usually the hotels, because as you rightly said, the marketing has different type of segmentation, and the way marketing understands their segmentation or how they are structured is sometimes different from usually, right? So in that case, we normally have something called sub segment. So for example, retail. So as you know, the retail means that, if you look at the definition of retail, it's a market position rate, seasonally priced room rate from the transient business, is a non-discounted, non-qualified, and is always available when the room has or when the hotel has a room to sell. Now you can sell this rate on your OTA like booking.com. If you are selling on a booking.com, it is your same rate, and non-qualified, non-discounted, and is always available when you have a room to sell. You may be selling it on your website. You may be selling it when the guest is making a check-in at the time of walk-in, right? So you have three different ways of selling this retail rate. So, in sometime in order to get more insights, the hotel would have created another subsegment which is called retail. Then it is divided into three parts. One is walk-in, means the hotel which is the guests which are coming and using this rate. Then you have your own website, which is selling the non-discounted rates. Then you have your OTAs. Now, on OTAs, you sometimes sell packages, you sometimes sell discounted rates, you sometimes sell local promotion rates, you sometimes sell discounted packages. So, in that case, if you then in that case, ideally, it would go into the different segments. For example, on your website, you have a bar rate, which is a public rate. It's at you come and anytime you can book it. You have a discounted rate for, let's say, for the month of June, or for the month of if we are in the month June, so we may run local promotion rate, which is starting till the end of June. Now that rate by definition should go into discount, right? But from sales and marketing point of view, because the website is maintained by one department, is going to be managed by reservations or by the revenue management or by the distribution, or there may be an e-commerce team. For them, production has to go into their website, right? But if you put everything into website, then you are not following the usually, because if you put every production into usually, it will not go into retail, not go into discount, not go into the qualified, because they may book directly via the website. Nowadays, because of the e-commerce, we even put the negotiated rate on our website. So we give them a coupon code and say, okay, if you are a corporate agent, or if you are a corporate company, you have your specific corporate, you select a coupon code which will give you your qualified rate. The only thing is, at the time of check-in, you have to prove that you are entitled for that rate. Yeah. So in that case, if you put everything into website, you would be losing your usually, because it will not be following the usually. So what normally hotels nowadays do is they create sub segments, or they create another way called source of booking. So there is a market segment which has to follow the usually, because that's the standard, and then there is a market source of booking, right? That source of booking can be website. Then the market segmentation can be retail, can be discount, can be negotiated, can be qualified. So there are two different things. One is the market segmentation for accounting and reporting purposes, and then there is another one for source of booking, which is coming via the website. So this way, that source of booking can help the marketing to understand what marketing channels or what source of bookings um, are effective and what are not effective. So there can be a travel agent who can be booking who may be booking a retail rate, or who can be booking a wholesale rate, right? Because let's say a travel agent does not have a wholesale contract. He is forced to sell the retail rate or a discounted rate at a commission of maybe whatever X percentage, and he agrees with that. So where the booking of that will go, into retail or into wholesale? Retail, right? But you can select the source of booking as wholesaler or a agent, correct? So in that way, you get both reports. So for accounting purposes, for reporting purposes, you will look at. So there are two ways. The retail, because of the way these prices are structured, the segmentation is defined by to understand how the revenue is being segregated from the paying capacity of the customer, not by the booking source of the customer, right? So retailers who are paying a non-discounted rate are the highest payers, right? Because that's the highest rate you can achieve, retail rate. Then you have a discounted rate, which is the next category, where you may be giving a 10% discount or a 15% discount, or you may be selling packages, promotions via online, via OTA. OTA, opaque, means when the OTA, for example, Agoda or Expedia, are combining the room into the other packages. So it's normally they are paying you at a discounted rate. They are not going to pay you your normal retail rate, right? So it will go into the discount. It's the second highest category usually. Then you have negotiated rate. Negotiated rate are supposed to be lower than that discount rate, because you are selling a bulk or to a corporate company who is committing to a certain business which is repeated every month or every 6 months. And but they have to be identification to get the rate. So in this negotiated, the company may pay directly for the customer, or the customer may need to pay by themselves, i.e., on their own account. But the important thing is that the rate is negotiated by the company for the with the hotel. That's why it's going to negotiated. And then there are the qualified rate, which is maybe similar to negotiate, or maybe even lower than negotiate, but these are not negotiated with anybody. Hotel is giving it itself, or it's sometimes mandated by the government that you may have to give a certain rate. For example, in Philippines, there is a senior citizen discount. right? Whoever is above 65, whatever is your rate, senior citizens are supposed to get 50% discount, whatever is your rate, it doesn't matter. So that becomes a qualified rate. Then certain countries may have a specific preference for, let's say, armies or for government or for employee rates. Sometimes the hotel is giving its own employee rates. So these rates are qualified, means they you have to qualify to a certain criteria to be able to availing that rate. And it's not a negotiation between the company and the customer, it's the policy of the hotel or from the government, right? So the wholesale is with a discount between contract between the travel agent or another company who is selling on your behalf, but they are making a margin. So if they are selling your retail rate, then the revenue will go into retail, but the production will go into as a agent, because the agent team might want to claim it as their own production, right? So there are two different things. One is the revenue segmentation, and one is the production report. So both are two different things, and their purpose is entirely different. So usually the property management systems are able to capture these two different things. They are able to capture the revenue segmentation, and they are also able to capture the source of booking. So you have to be very careful in designing the source of booking, so that you are collecting the source of booking as the business is coming really. And the revenue segmentation is based on the ability of based on the this criteria, where the it's a discounted rate or it's a negotiated rate, or it's a retail rate, or it's a qualified rate, so that the different type of revenue segmentation is captured. So that is the retail. And then you have group rates, which is divided into the again the source of booking via corporate agents, via association, via government, via tours, wholesalers, or via the other social, military, education, religious, and fraternal. In
Correct.
many hotels, those who comply with usually, the group room revenue is, even though is by usually is defined as 10 on a peak night, on any night, if and on any night a group is more than 10 or 10, it's classified as a group. If it's on any night, let's say the group is gonna stay for 5 nights, and none of the days is 10 room
Mhm.
nights, 10 rooms on any day is mostly 8 and 9. Even though it's a large business, it will still qualify as the transient business, and it will go into the relevant segmentation of either a wholesale or negotiated, however, depending on where the how the contract is done. But certain hotels which are smaller in size, and which sees that most of their business is coming into these 8 room nights or 7 room nights or 10 room nights, 10 rooms on any days, they define a lower limit. So many hotels have 5 rooms per night to be sold, to be classified as group, or sometimes they have 8. So in my hotels, for example, my average inventory is 60 rooms per hotel. So we define 8 rooms as a cutoff to classify this is going to be a group room revenue or is going to be a transient. So if less than 8 means 7, it will be transient. If more than 7, 8 or more, it will be the group room revenue. So it depends on the hotel, but the only thing is it has to be consistent, right? And it includes sometimes the contract, which is sometimes a free room which you are giving as a contract. For example, you are giving 10 9 plus 1, right? So if there are 10 rooms, then including that free room night as free room as the which is given as a part of contract, then that will also that will also um, qualify to be counted as the part of rooms, and it will be counted as a group room revenue. So even these group room revenue sometimes have sub-segmentations. For example, corporate and association, they may have a sub-segmentation of having a group which is staying only, or having a group which has a meetings also. Then why are we doing this? The reason why we normally do the sub segmentation is to understand business in even more details, because usually here you will see is is a broad definition, right? The government is a broad definition. It means it doesn't have it, even though, because it's combining everything. It's combining the embassies, it's combining the government agencies, it's combining the security and NGOs, everything, right? But from sales and marketing perspective, they may want to know in deeper details where their efforts are being paid more, right? So they may want to know separately, what is my NGO business, what is my government business, what is my embassy's business, what is my foreign government business, because there are usually the foreign governments or delegations who are coming into the hotel and staying. Then the tour and wholesalers have either a series, or they have ad hoc groups, or they have wedding groups, or they have another type of groups where they are coming together and doing it. So these all these major segments will have a sub segment for the purpose of tracking the revenue in even more details, because sometimes the ADR and the way it's negotiated is different, and it depends also whether they are using the other facilities in the hotel or not, right? But again, the production of these rooms will be different, because they will be tracked for marketing purposes, right? How the marketing is structured. So if there is a separate department for let's say government, so you can track it as a government. If there is a if there is no separate department and it's handled by corporate, then you can just combine it together. So yeah. So then
Yes.
how the room nights are. So Opera, you usually have the these reports which are going to give you the subsegmentation and segmentation in terms of revenue and in terms of room nights as well, and in terms of ADR, right? Then the other important aspect that you might notice in usually is that there are contract room revenue, which we have already discussed, is that the other room revenue. So there were certain changes in the 11th edition where they changed the definition of the room revenue. So can is everybody following the same definition for other room revenue, i.e. the no shows, which is coming from the transient or the group revenue, and is going into the this other room revenue. So it's a no-show and a cancellation. So two are different things, right? So the no-shows, every kind of no-show is going into the other room revenue, while the cancellation is going into the other income, attrition and cancellation fee in the miscellaneous income. So not a part of the room revenue, but it's a part of the other operating departments, which is in the miscellaneous income. But
Yes.
when we look at the ADR, we never look at the overall ADR for any kind of analysis, because it's a combination of your different subsegments, right? So we normally look at the ADR from the market segmentation point of view, and market segmentation are not affected by no shows, because it's is accounted as other room revenue. Now, because this is the change in the definition, so the some of the property management systems are not really change to this definition. So there, in that case, usually the in like in my past, when we used to do before the change, we used to calculate the no shows into, or day use or extra bad into the subsegment. So we add the revenue into the segmentation of that particular where the business is coming from. So we would add into the segmentation so that it's included in the room, included in the ADR. But now we changed to calculate it as other room revenue, and the segmentation remains as it is. So the segment ADRs are more or less similar to what the selling prices are, right? But there are other effects. So sometimes if you have a big no show, definitely your ADR will be affected, right? But cancellations are where the things make different. Sometimes you charge for like 50% charge for cancellation, or 100% charge for cancellation if it's very late. So we are able to charge, especially for groups where it can be very big. So those cancellations are usually charged to the other income, not to the group number. Now, I want to understand why you think is it, why is it like this? Why why the no show is charged into rooms, and why the cancellation are charged to other income? Why do you think is it? in my understanding, the reason why is it is because when you have a no show, let's say you have a booking, you have already prepared yourself, right? You have allocated your manning, you have prepared for your amenities, you have prepared your expenses in according to the bookings, right? So let's say there is a no show, means at that until the end, until the time of check-in on end of the day, you have no idea that the person will come or not. So you will keep that room, you will clean that room, you will keep set up the amenities. You have welcome amenities, you have arrival amenities, you have your housekeeping schedules. So you have done everything, right? So you have basically incurred your expense in that prospect. So that's why the room, it is your department revenue, because you have incurred the cost. While the cancellations are usually given a time, so there is usually a 24 hours time, or 100, or a 7 day notice, or a 3 days notice, or whatever, right? But since the room has been cancelled, it is assumed that you will cancel out the expenses also. You will adjust your roster, you will adjust your amenities. You have time to save the money, you have time to save your expenses. So rooms division, because it's a fee, and as Seth said correctly, it's a fee. It's not a revenue, it's not a ADR, it's not something which the guest has consumed. So that's why the room revenue is going into miscellaneous, not as a part of the room division. And also the cost is not incurred in the room division because it's cancelled already and the hotel knows about it, right? So that's the reason. Now the another thing is day use. We usually have day use. So the revenue is going there. Revenue. So you will be accounted for. You will be getting your ADR, but no room nights into this case. Then similar case for early departure, late checkout, or rental of rollaway beds and cribs, and surcharge and service charges. Anything which is you are charging to the guest, for which the guest does not have an liberty to either pay or not to pay, and does not also decide how much to pay, then it becomes a part of hotel revenue. And that is why you will see this line as other room revenue, surcharge and service charge. Basically, if so you it for to classify the service charge as income or the room revenue, it has to pass the two conditions. One is that it is mandatory for the guest to pay, and they don't have a liberty to decide how much to pay, right? Whether you are paying it 100% back to the staff, or you are paying, or you're retaining it to the hotel income, it's not deciding point here. So it's only 2 point. One is who decided, and does the guest have the liberty to pay or not to pay, right? So that's the thing. So you may, if you may want to change, if you are not following, if your management contract or something says that you need to follow usually, then you may have to change the definition or the accounting treatment. Now there are other things. For example, resort fees are which is not a part of the room service charge, because resort fee is charged for the entire resort, not just only the rooms, right? It's charged for using of your facilities, using the beach, using the gardens, everything, right? So, and the cost of that is not going into the rooms division. The cost of it is going into the other operating and distributed departments most of the time. So the resort fee is not part of room income. Resort fee becomes part of your miscellaneous income. So the key thing here is that is whether the guest has a choice or not. So that's the thing, right? So the other room department consideration that you have here is packages. Now package revenue is again where most of the hotels are different in how they settle, how they record the revenue. So given an example, if let's say you are putting up a package, so how do you allocate the discount, or allocate the package allocations to, let's say, a breakfast, or the spa, or the other treatments? How do you do now? Do you have a fixed price, or you calculate that based on the percentage of discount? So let's say you have a package which includes the room, food, and spa. So it's not the cost, it's the market value which you have to see. Means if you are selling this food in the market is an open price, how much the guest would have to pay if it's not a package, how much the guest would have to pay for spa, right? So the room, spa, food, and spa, or any other package component that you might be looking at. So the total will become to $320, for example. Now you have put it as a ratio, right? And let's say the selling price is 240. So the package allocation would follow the exact the same ratio as it is for the market value. So out of 240, room will get 50%, food will get 35%, and the spa will get 15% based on the ratios of market value. And this is also mandated by the IFRS 15 now. Like for example, in our hotel, we do breakfast for everybody, right? So it's not, we don't sell the breakfast basically. So what we do normally is we have an allocated cost of breakfast. So say, let's say the breakfast costs about $3, correct? And so we have allocated $6 out of room revenue. So we are giving 50% profitability to the F&B department because that's their labor cost and everything else. So we costed it out. How much would it be costing for to serve the breakfast if there is a food and labor? So it comes out, let's say, $6. So we allocated $6 irrespective of um, the market price, because we don't really sell the market in the market. We rarely sell breakfast. Because every guest who is coming to our resorts, they have the inclusive of breakfast. But there is another challenge that is now posed by the IFRS 15 is, now IFRS 15 says that it has to be the market value ratio. For example, now we are selling so we have, let's say, a resort, a presidential suite, and also a normal deluxe room, right? One presidential suite, let's say we are selling for $200 a night, and the deluxe room we are selling for $50 a night. But the breakfast allocation from both is the same. It's not changed. Our logic is that because the guest is the same and they are eating the same and they are eating the same buffet, the cost is same for us. But what the IFRS says is two different separate contracts. So if you follow the same market value concept, let's say you put $6 as a break value of food, then the rooms will change, right? For presidential suite, it will become $200. For a deluxe room, it will be $50. So what will be the total? Now this total is 50 and 56 and 206. So the ratio, the weighted average ratio will change. It means the package allocation from the for the rooms and the breakfast will also change, which is now very difficult because no PMS is designed to do it the breakfast allocations in this way. Breakfast allocations are always done on a standard price. So that's the thing that we are taking it as a disclaimer, as a policy in IFRS 15, even though it doesn't follow the IFRS 15, but we are still following it. So usually you have to follow the market price. So for other components, for example, you are saying the hotel in the resort, everything is included in the full. So there's a full board package, but not everybody is buying a full board, right? So you may have a market value for, or a market price for spa, for food, for lunch, for dinner. So what you have to do is you have to calculate the market value of each total component, take a weighted average, and whatever is your bundle price, you scale it back to your bundle price. So that's where you will get your package allocations. So that's how usually prescribes. Now you follow it or not, that's up to you. Usually you have to recognize because the barter, the how it works is usually you have a contract between between your hotel and agency, right? So where maybe they are doing an agency, maybe they are doing a advertisement on your behalf, or they have printed the brochure which against which you are giving a room night, and that may not be in the same month, right? So you may be recognizing the revenue in 1 month, and you may be recognizing the expense in 1 month, means you have actually incurred the expense. Now how the usually says that because it's a different department, the advertisement is a marketing budget while the room should get their own revenue. So the usually says that you need to recognize the revenue for your barter agreements. So how you are going to do that? Normally you are deciding, right, that you give me a revenue, you give me your service of advertising one page, let's say it costs $500. So I will give you 3 room nights for free. Correct? That's how it works. So means your revenue from the room nights is $500 for 3 room nights. That's your negotiated. So you will put that into your negotiated because you have negotiated the price. Correct? So you will put that as a negotiated price, or it can be the other. Yeah, it should be other negotiated. So then the travel agent can use that as a service, uh, as a benefit. So whenever they use that room, you will recognize that. If you have, let's say, the expense has been incurred first, means you will recognize your expense and create a liability towards the barter agreement. And whenever you are getting your, whenever, so your liability will continue to stand in your balance sheet in the next month or next to next month when your when the person has actually used the barter, means those 3 room nights are utilized, because you are recognizing a revenue, means you have a collection to do, right? Then once you have a the guest has check out, what you are going to do is you will offset that collection against your payables. So this way the barter will be offsetted, and you will have your expense and you will have your revenue as well. So why this has to be done? Technically, because many places the hotels is being managed by the operators, right? Management companies, and management companies' revenue come from gross revenue and the profit. Even though because you are recognizing the revenue and expense, there is no profit, but there is a revenue, right? So the management fee, the management company will get their revenue based on their management fee based on the barter revenue that you have recognized at whatever values you have done it. So that's one way. Second way is the matching concept. So you have done the when you are servicing the room, you have incurred the expenses in that month. So you need to get the revenue in that particular month, right? And the expenses which are supposed to be done in recognized also in the month where you have actually used it. So the marketing expense also has to be recognized in that same month. So that's the reason why the barter agreements has to be recognized properly. Then in certain countries, the tax authorities are also going to look at your complimentary room. They are going to ask you, okay, because they are charging, they are supposed to get commercial tax, right? Or you can say a GST or a VAT in many places, or whatever is the name of that tax, value added tax. So they will look at the complimentary nights and ask you, why is it complimentary? Because it means you are not you're not showing a sale, and you are basically evading a tax, correct? So in those cases, the hotel may get caught in the as a evading of tax, because both the parties are evading the tax. Ultimately, you have a commercial agreement where somebody is selling their advising service, and you are selling your rooms services, and both of you has to pay the commercial tax. And by not recording the income and expense, you are evading the taxes on both sides, correct? So
Understood. Yes.
ideally, you have to recognize the revenue, recognize the VAT. Now, when you are utilizing the service, you are entitled to get an input VAT credit, correct? Because you can offset that VAT that you have to pay, that you have paid to the other party. So means you have to exchange official receipts, or you can say official invoices between the two parties whenever the service happen, so that the commercial tax is also offsetted. Then the authorities will have no problems, right? So that's the reason why you have to recognize it. So if you're not following it, I suggest you should start following it, or you can suggest to your financial controllers to create a policy. And also it creates a budgetary constraints on the marketing, because now if you say free, then there is no cost to incur in the marketing, right? So marketing is going to use it as much as they can, even though it's for the benefit of the hotel, it's still a cost. And that cost is not recognized in the profit and loss statement, because you are recording the barter revenue as free, right? You're not recording any expense. So their expense versus budget is not matched together. So better to do it. Okay. And then there are other things which is called the loyalty programs. Now the loyalty programs, when so loyalty programs, how they work basically is, you have a guest, who is paying staying many times, right? And you are giving a point. At some points they will redeem the point. So how that revenue is recognized? For some hotels it may not be Marriott Bonvoy, Marriott program. They may be doing their own loyalty programs, right? So means they don't have to pay to anyone. They are just recognizing the point and redeeming the point. In that case also, even though the hotel is not going to get any payment from anybody, it's just they are redeeming a point, we you still have to recognize the revenue from that hotel. No, so normally what happens is, when you are giving the point, you have to recognize the that as an expense because there is a value of the point to or administer the loyalty program. So normally what we do is we credit out, we charge certain, we create a provision for loyalty programs. And we charge the value of points that are being awarded to the guest as marketing fees, right? In your marketing expense, you will see a loyalty program fees. You have to recognize that. Sometimes it's 2% of the 2% of the points or 3% of the points, depending on what. So, what is the Marriott percentage when you award a point? How much you have to pay to Marriott for loyalty program?
We pay almost 7% of our revenue to Marriott monthly.
Yeah, so
We
7%.
pay
So,
4.25,
mhm,
almost we pay like 4.25 as a franchisee fee every month on
mhm,
the gross revenue, and then
mhm.
we pay almost 3% on sales and marketing fees
Yeah.
every month.
Hmm. So that is the loyalty program value. So every point that is generated, it's gonna go into the marketing expenses, right? So
Yes.
even if let's say the loyalty program is managed by the company itself, managed by the hotel itself, you still have people to manage the loyalty program. You have computer software expense, you have other things, you have the redemptions. So for all those, hotels normally calculate how much would be the value. So let's say you put 5% as a value, right? So you will credit out your you will charge to the marketing expense and create a provision whenever somebody redeem the point from there. So it can be 2% of the value points redeemed or 3% of the points redeemed. The room rate will be decided based on how much points you want to redeem. So in that case, the provision will be reduced and it will be back going back to the income side, so that the loyalty program cost is adjusted. So this way it will be recognized as a loyalty program. So even if it's your own loyalty program or it's a third party loyalty program, any point redemption you have to create you have to create a revenue, and any point that you are avoiding, it has to be recognized as an expense, right? So that's the another part of the room revenue which you have to decide. Then the wholesaler and OTA revenue, which this we have already discussed. I think the internet wholesalers are sometimes the travel agents like Agoda or Expedia. They have a contract, specific contract. In that case, those room nights will go as a wholesale agreement. But if they are selling your direct published rate and there is not a discounted rate, then it will go into the retail. And if they are selling your packages, they are selling your local promotion or a discounted rates, then the revenue will go into the retail segment. First of all, the allowances are the actual allowances are the reduction of revenue due to service problem, not because of the error in posting. If it's an error in posting, you have to go back to your your segmentation and adjust it. It's only the allowance rebates which you are giving because of the service issue. Let's say the aircon did not work overnight, there's a water leak, there's somebody fall down, food was not good. At the time of front office, we usually give freebies, right? We give 10% discount on the room rate, correct? Sometimes we do that. So how you are going to adjust that allowances from which segment? Usually you will say, okay, this guest came from this segment, so we deduct that segmentation, right? So there are two reasons why you should recognize your allowances separately, not adjust into the expenses. One is, if you are tracking it separately, on the face of P&L, everybody would know how many complaints were there by the magnitude of the total allowance, the value of allowance that you have given, right? Because it's fair on the face. What compared to the last year, compared to the budget, compared to the previous or the year to date, what is the trend of allowances? Is it increasing or is it decreasing? So one way is it's easy to understand. Is there any problem in the operations? That's one thing. Second thing is because it's a service problem, not a rate problem. If you adjust into sub-segmentation, it's gonna hit your ADR immediately. So you will, when you are doing a next year budget, how the marketing does the budget, they will look at the revenue production, they will look at the revenue ADR, and they will look at the revenue, right? And next year, when they are setting up the next year budget, they will look at, oh, I did this ADR last month, so my I maybe want to do only 5% more or 10% more, or they will set up the prices based on those ADR. What is the achieved ADR? So prices are never set based on the actual prices, right, of last year. It's always see we always see what is the achieved ADR of that segment, so that we can set up the prices for next year. So if you are adjusting your allowances to the subsegment or to the segment, what you are doing is you are creating problems, because if let's say in certain months there was a lot of problems, means we had a lot of allowances and you have adjusted into the subsegments, the rate is going down, the ADR is going down, and next year your budget is going to be impacted by the allowances. Yeah. So that's why it usually requires the hotels to recognize the allowances as a separate line item for these reasons, for tracking of problems in the services, and to ensure that the next year, when you are looking at the trends, the data is not distorted. So that's the overall about the total room revenue, overall room revenue as per usually, and then you get a total room revenue, your all your segments minus the allowances. So that's room revenue. Tomorrow we will discuss about the expenses. So what I want you to do from your point of view is you look at the expenses. Here is the line of expense. If you get time, I want you to look at these lines. Which of them are you using? And is it the same as you are following? Mean there is a line, there is a definition. So then our discussion will be much easier when we are discussing, and